Good morning, everyone. Thank you for dialing in for today's press conference. Please continue to stand by. We will begin our conference momentarily. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star one to be joined into the queue. Record your name and affiliation. And the conference is also being recorded. And if you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Please continue to stand by for today's press conference. It will begin momentarily. You are live at this time.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Congratulations, of course, to the NASA and SpaceX teams on today's return of Crew-6. Joining us for today's post-splashdown teleconference, we have Steve Stich, Program Manager of the NASA's Commercial Crew Program, Joel Montalbano, Program Manager of the International Space Station for NASA, Benji Reed from SpaceX, and Adnan Alrais, Assistant Director, General Space Operations and Exploration Sector Mission Manager for the United Arab Emirates Astronaut Programme. There's going to be opening remarks from each of our speakers, and then we will take questions. For media on the call, star one to get into the question and answer queue. Steve Stich, over to you.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks to everybody for joining us early in the morning here. Hey, really exciting last 24 hours for us here at NASA and SpaceX. It's exciting to have Crew-6 back home, splashing down on our 6th ISS crew rotation mission and our 7th overall mission between the Commercial Crew Program and SpaceX. Busy Sunday, as I said. We undocked at about 7 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday, backed away from the space station. Dragon did an awesome job flying away from the space station. We used a little bit of a different approach this time, where we flew behind the station and about 20 kilometers above to set up the phasing for the landing at Jacksonville tonight. So that was the first time we've ever done that in our history of a Commercial Crew Program. The return was delayed a couple of days. We were really looking for good weather. A high-pressure system was setting up over the U.S. and moving down over Florida. We took advantage of that today to land successfully at about 12:17 a.m. Eastern, just a little while ago. The weather was exactly as we predicted. We've been looking at this weather for about the last 24 to 48 hours. The seas were about 5 feet, a little higher than we've landed in before, but certainly within our weather flight rules and the criteria that SpaceX uses to recover the crew, and about a 10-second period on those waves, so you could see the swells, and the crew did really well in those sea states. and the winds were about 5 knots at landing, so it was a very nice, benign landing for the crew. Right now, the helo is landed on the ship, and the crew will be departing the ship and heading to the rendezvous point where they'll do some science operations there, and then they'll fly back to Houston. The crew was doing really well after landing. They all looked really good coming out of the Dragon capsule. And now, I just would really like to thank the entire NASA and SpaceX team for all the hard work. This mission we launched back all the way back in March, and it was a great mission. Did a lot of great science, which I know Joel will talk about. The next steps for this capsule are, the plan right now is it would fly the Crew-6 mission, and that mission would be no later than February of next year. And so once the vehicle gets back to Dragonland, the SpaceX team will turn that vehicle around, and we plan right now to use that vehicle for Crew-8. So again, a huge thanks to the entire team, to the international partners, to United Arab Emirates, and the FAA, the U.S. Coast Guard, the DoD, the rescue forces from the Det-3, Detachment 3, NOAA, our National Weather Service, played a huge role in the landing, and then also the 45th Weather Squadron. And with that, I will turn it over to Joel.
All right. Hey, thank you, Steve, and thank you for joining us, and happy Labor Day to everyone. Outstanding landing, as Steve said. This crew spent 184 days on board the International Space Station, so adding the day up and the day down, 186 days in space for our crew. They did just under 3,000 orbits of the Earth, and this crew saw 7 visiting vehicles come and go to the International Space Station and performed just under 250 experiments in utilization, research, and technology demonstration. Looking forward, as I'm sure you've heard me talk about, we have a Soyuz launch coming up on September 15th and a Soyuz landing on September 27th. So with that, congratulations to my NASA colleagues, SpaceX, and all our international partners for an outstanding mission. With that, I'll hand it over to Benji out at SpaceX.
Thank you, Joel. What an awesome night, and it's such an honor and so cool to get to be a part of this whole program. We had a great return, as Steve and Joel already said, and a huge welcome back to the Crew-6 crew. This mission has completed our 7th NASA human spaceflight mission to the International Space Station. It was a nominal return. Dragon is healthy. The parachutes performed as expected, and our recovery teams did great. Dragon did great, and the crew appeared to do awesome. And we're getting ready to bring Dragon back to our refurbishment facility at Cape Canaveral, Florida. It's of note, I think, probably that just a little bit after splashdown, the SpaceX teams also successfully launched our 62nd mission of the year from LC-39A in Florida. It's been quite a busy weekend. And it's a big deal for us. But as always, our missions to the space station, our missions for NASA are our top priority. This means we've flown now 43 times to the ISS for both cargo and crew. We've flown 21 reflown Dragons. We've done 12 human spaceflight missions in total, and that means we've sent 42 humans to space so far. And tonight's return was our 10th human spaceflight return, and that actually ties the number of human spaceflight returns from Project Gemini. So huge congratulations to the SpaceX teams and, of course, to the NASA teams. The joint effort is amazing. And for me especially, this is a really important return, has an extra special meaning to me. We started this the program to be able to help NASA get their astronauts to the station and bring them home a number of years ago. And this marks the final mission that was originally envisioned in the original contract. And what an honor to have been able to be part of this entire cycle so far. And again, a great honor from NASA. Now that we're continuing with additional missions beyond this original 6 operational missions. Again, huge congratulations to the joint teams that are making that happen and continuing to do so. Our thank yous, as always, to NASA, to Roscosmos, to UAE, and of course to the 45th Wing of the Space Force for your trust, your partnership, and your close collaboration for this mission. And a really special thank you to all the families and friends, of all of the people who've worked both at NASA and at SpaceX, all of these missions and all of these years. It's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this, both for the people working and, of course, for their families. And it means a lot to be able to do this and do this for the nation, for the world, for all of our international partners. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Adnan Alrais with UAE.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to say big congratulations to NASA and SpaceX on the successful return of the Crew-6 mission. It has been a really smooth return. And also congratulations to the crew members for completing their mission successfully. This mission has been very fabulous mission for the UAE. UAE Astronaut Programme participating in the longest duration mission that an Arab astronaut participated in for 6 months duration, conducting a lot of science and experiments in cooperation with NASA and ISS partners. We had many education outreach activities, live PO events that we've reached hundreds and thousands of students and different parts of the country as well as the region. It has really great impact, not only in the UAE, but also our region, in order to focus more on the STEM education and support growing the space sector in our countries. Again, I would like to thank NASA. We're very grateful for this opportunity to be part of this expedition, being part of the Human Spaceflight Program. It's an important milestone for the UAE Human Spaceflight Program. And we're looking forward to continuing and expanding this cooperation with future missions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For media, again, *1 to get into the queue if you have a question. A quick informational update that the crew has begun loading aboard the helicopter aboard the recovery vessel. A little update there. First, we have Stephen Clark from Ars Technica. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thanks for taking my question. I think mine's probably for Benji. Are you still planning up to 15 flights per Crew Dragon spacecraft as you get into flying these capsules more and more? Are you learning anything about how they need to be refurbished that could refine that number 15 up or down? And also, any update on the new Crew Dragon that's under construction? Where is that right now in assembly and test? And do you have a mission on the horizon assigned for that to debut? Thanks.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the question. That new capsule's coming along well. We'll see exactly how the timing works out to see if that which mission that'll be assigned to. My sense is that if things move along their way they're doing, it'll be pretty soon, the next couple flights or so. We'll see, but not a specific mission tag to yet. And then, your question about reuse. So 15 flight reuse is our target. Obviously, we need to absolutely make sure that that's safe and understand all of what we need to do. In addition to the refurbishment that we already do to get to 5 flight reuse. But we definitely want to try to get up to 15 flight reuse. All of the data so far continues to indicate that that's possible. Critically, we're working with our NASA partners to ensure that this makes sense, with them as well, and that we can certify the vehicles to do that. I would expect a certain amount of, additional refurbishment that has to be done, and we're, moving forward as we investigate that. But I'm very optimistic on getting up to 15.
Thank you, Benji. Next is Bill Harwood, CBS News. Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, thanks, Steve. 2 quick ones from me. One for Steve, and I might have missed this earlier. If I did, I apologize. But is the crew being flown from Jacksonville back to Houston or from the Cape back to Houston? And do you know when Sultan and
Bill, we heard the first part of your question, but the second part cut out a little bit.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, Steve. No, the question was, do the crew fly to Jacksonville or to here before going to Houston? And I realize it's just a stop to get on a plane, but just out of curiosity, and do we know when Sultan and Andre will head back to their home agencies? And a question for Benji. You mentioned the Starlink launch tonight, and I was just curious if there was a reason SpaceX has decided not to put Starlinks on YouTube anymore, the mission audio channel and the webcast, in favor of the X broadcast, which offers some limitations from a reporter standpoint. I just didn't know if that's cost related or manpower or what that was based on. Appreciate it.
I'll take the first question and let others answer the other two questions. Yeah, the crew right now, they're going to fly from the recovery ship. They'll get on the helo. They'll fly to Jacksonville, and that's where they'll meet up with the NASA aircraft, and then they'll fly from there back to Houston, and then we'll let.
Yeah, with regards to Sultan Niadi, so he'll spend like 14 days here in Houston, and after that he'll be back to the UAE for almost a week. Then again we'll be back here in Houston to conduct the science and experiments in the recovery plans.
Great, yeah, and Bill, I don't know. I actually was just paying attention to the data and the telemetry, and so I don't really have an answer to your question, but thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, folks. Next is Marcia Smith from Space Policy Online. Go ahead, Marcia.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
We have you loud and clear.
Okay. So I had a follow-up to Stephen Clark's question about reuse of the Dragon. So you're going to fly this one again in February, which is, I think, just 5 months from now. So I'm curious, what is the turnaround time that you're aiming for? Is 5 months sort of the standard that you're going to have for the future, or are you trying to make it 4 months or 3 months? I'm just curious as to how quickly you can turn these around. And on a completely different note, I had a question for Joel about Frank Rubio's return, because he's getting ready to come back. And I'm just curious, are there any special procedures or preparations that he needs to go through getting ready to return, because he's been there for a year instead of 6 months?
I'll take the first question, see if Benji has anything to add. Yeah, let's see. For this particular Crew Dragon Endeavor, Crew-8 will be the 5th flight of that vehicle, and we've already certified the vehicles for 5 reuses, and so we'll go through that process. This is about the typical time to turn the vehicles around. Certainly 5 or 6 months is certainly easily achievable to turn the vehicles around based on what we've seen from SpaceX. We'll work hand in hand with Benji's team and SpaceX as we work through the different things on the vehicle that will. One of the things we want to really do when we get this vehicle back is, we've talked a little bit about the prop system and corrosion on the valves, and we'll want to look at those. Of course, that problem was discovered after this vehicle was already in space, and so we'll take a little bit of time to look at that system and then get it turned around. And the target again is the Crew-8 flight no earlier than February. And I'll hand it over to Joel for the second part of the question.
So, hey, good question. Thank you. Frank, Dimitri, and Sergey will be up there 371 days when they land. So they'll do the standard fluid loading that all crews do. What really drives their ability to adapt is the exercise that they're doing. And so we've been working the exercise protocols throughout their expedition. Once they get to the ground, though, the team will work at the crew's pace. So if the crew needs the ground to go a little slower in Kazakhstan, that's what the ground will do. But no special things other than just working at the crew's pace when they land. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Next, we have Will Robinson Smith of Spaceflight Now. Go ahead, Will.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking our questions this evening. I guess a question on performance for this particular Dragon. In the pre-return conversations, one of the items that was being launched in addition to the valves with the parachutes. So I was wondering if either Steve or Benji could comment on the performance of the chutes tonight and if that was pretty much in line with what you were hoping to see. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. I can jump in, and then Steve can add to it. Chutes look really nominal, look great, really beautiful. The velocities of during deploy, drogues and mains, and then overall the deploy. We're not tracking any anomalies or anything that looks out of character. Obviously, we'll look at the data very closely. The telemetry data and the recorded data. We'll look at the video, all the various videos closely, and make sure. But everything was great so far.
And I don't have much to add, Benji. I mean, both the drogues look like they deployed nominally. It's a little hard to see in the IR imagery. We'll go review all that data. The mains deployed just fine. They all seem to inflate nominally about at the same time. And as Benji said, the descent rates were nominal right down the middle. We'll do what we always do. SpaceX will recover those chutes out of the water, get them back on the ship. We'll take them back. They'll go back to the vendors. They'll get inspected by the joint SpaceX and NASA teams. And we'll look at the chutes and then we'll also look at all the imagery in much, much detail and make sure that that's what we continue to do every flight. We continue to learn step by step on each one of these flights. But in real time, everything looked very nominal.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That wraps up our media questions this morning. So we are going to wrap up our media telecon and again convey our congratulations to the NASA and SpaceX teams on this Crew-6 return this morning, this Labor Day. That is going to end it for us. Everyone, have a good morning. Thank you.
This does conclude today's conference call. We thank you all for participating. You may now disconnect and have a great rest of your day.